Today, we're speaking with Dr. Lindsay Tsang. He is the founder of Reset Therapy. He's built a thriving mental health practice in Barrie, Ontario, with no prior business experience. He is a registered psychotherapist with a PhD in organizational psychology. He specializes in leadership development and work motivation, and he scaled his practice to 10 plus associates and is generating phenomenal revenue as well. Dr. Tsang, really looking forward to the conversation with you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I could keep going with your list there. You have a lot of accolades there and check marks and success. We'll just say check marks there, but really looking forward to finding out a little bit more about you and your background as well, being from the Barrie area and growing such a thriving practice, but then being able to have the family aspect being successful there and the business side of things.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Seeing your face around, um, and I'm humbled when you say I have accolades. It's like I finally made my parents proud as a good Asian boy.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's something to start something and go it on your own, and it takes some courage to do that. But then to hire that first team member, that also takes a lot of courage. But then you've been able to take it a step further and really be able to build this practice, crushing any sort of, we'll say, preconceived notions or this thought process that I have to work 100 hours a week in order to be successful. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about the backstory of you getting and starting your own business, that origin story, and then maybe you can take us through that first hire that you brought on, and how that we'll just say panned out.
Yeah, yeah. So I think when I graduated, I actually started off in ministry, and that was something that was actually for me like an entrepreneurial journey in itself, because I had to go out and build a list of people that I had to meet up with and ask them to support me monthly. And so that and also they had really great leadership in this organization, so that really taught me a lot actually. Um, so when I moved back to Toronto, I was looking for a teaching job, and it was impossible to find one at that point. So I was starting to look for schooling as well, and found out that you can do your master's for counseling psychology online. So I thought, great, I can do that so that I can find a job at the same time. And then I landed a job right away after I started. So I was doing double time, masters and teaching at the same time. Um, Now I was lucky when I had my internship. I worked with a private practice because that was the only time I had available. I was working during the day, and at nighttime I was going off. I was talking with my supervisor, and she said, "Oh yeah, I could be retired right now, but why would I? Because I only work 2 days of the week and I make 120 grand a year." I was like, "Okay, that's a pretty good goal." so
Love that.
so for sure, I already got that seed planted there. And so when I got married, we moved up to Barrie. The idea was to be, a bit away from my folks and my circle, so that we can start fresh together. Um, and so we had no like connections here whatsoever. We just plopped ourselves down here and started working. Um, so all I did was I looked up. I knew I wanted to start a practice. I looked up the top 10 most visible practices in town and found them on LinkedIn or on their websites, and just emailed them and asked them, "Hey, can I have a coffee with you?" So when I arrived to Barrie, first week, I had 10 people lined up, interviewed all 10 of them, and just asked them for advice. That's kind of where it started, because that's where it landed me in the right direction for where I can learn a bit more about business development, or the first place that I started renting to see clients.
I love that you reached out to existing businesses and went out for coffee. I think a lot of entrepreneurs that are thinking about getting into it, they just like, well, I don't want to waste somebody's time, or they wouldn't have time for me. But take us through what the results were after sitting down with 10 different practices. You got a wide array of counsel and wisdom from them. Can you share a little bit about the results from doing that exercise, which I think is genius, by the way?
I mean, at first they pointed me towards a local small business networking group to start off. So that was kind of my first foray into networking and just meeting other business owners, which also led me into a program. It's pretty popular around here with small business owners. That's called Growth Vantage. So it was like a cohort of people who would learn different lessons on business. Meanwhile, it's also a networking opportunity. Uh, and it also landed me in my first space. So I came here. Actually, I'm sitting in the space right now, um, and I was just renting per hour to see clients out of this space at first. And as my caseload grew, then I rented an extra room and I started hiring associates. And then as that grew, and it's just all kind of you know, what's the word? Serendipitous. Like it was like
Yeah.
they just happened to we developed a really good relationship, and the people who were leasing decided they were going to retire from private practice, and they said, "Do you want to take over the lease?" And I said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's do it." And then we had to open the door and start hiring people to fill the spots, right? So
Right.
yeah, some of it really does feel like just falling into the right place at the right time too.
Oh, man, that's so smart. So, again, going back to the 10 people that you interviewed, this can apply to any entrepreneur that's out there. It's like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. It does. Like, I mean, I think of real estate agent, mortgage broker, contractor, uh, like just name it, like anything in the automotive space. Like you can go to some of the smaller shops and actually go talk to them. And what I found is when you reach out and say, hey, listen, can we go for a coffee? uh a lot of them want to share their wisdom. The key is coming from a place of like total curiosity and can you help me? And just asking for that favor essentially, if you could help me. Very few people will say no, I don't have time. And if they do say they don't have time, most of them will just say, hey, listen, can you follow up with me, in a few weeks? I just got a lot going on right now. And you'll get the conversation eventually. But this has come up a few times that through the interviews that I'm having with entrepreneurs, very few people actually take this step. But by you doing that, that actually helped point you in the right direction. And you were able to get guidance of a networking group that you otherwise probably wouldn't have found.
I've heard someone, maybe it was Elon Musk in an interview. I don't really remember where, but they're like, "How did you learn all this stuff?" It's like I talk with people and I read books. And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly it." So I read books and I talk with people. And I could do, I need to remind myself of that. Sometimes it's like just go back to your roots. That's how you learn and got excited or got the right direction for a lot of ideas. Actually,
Are you still fine? I mean, successful practice. I mean, most people would be like, hey, listen, I'm good. I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to read more books. Is that something that's been like more of a challenge keeping up, or is that just something that you naturally still do?
uh, I'd say it's a challenge because there's a
Yeah.
level of comfort where I'm at now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it has been good because I recently sat down with someone who sold their business and retired off of it. And so I said, "Wow, that's really great.
Cool.
Can I get a coffee with you?" It's kind of same idea, right? And so he's actually
Yeah.
inspired me a lot because he said, "Now your next step is to turn your business into a sellable asset." And I thought, "Wow, that's been, stirring up things in me for like, what do I need to read? Who do I have to talk with on how to do that now?"
So good. You might want to even interview 9 more people that exited and
Yeah.
do the same approach over that you did initially getting into the business. Uh, but it's interesting because that concept of having a conversation where they plant a seed is something that was huge for me when I was done playing hockey. I was put on waivers one day. I walked in and my stuff was in a garbage bag. This is back when I was 23. I was recently married, and we flew back to Joanna's. The listeners, I've shared this story a couple times, but flew back. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was looking for another hockey team, and then Joanna's like, "You don't have to." She's like, Mark, you don't have to keep playing hockey if you don't want it. And I was like, that one idea was like this seed, or the blinders fell off. Uh, that just changed my life because at that point, I'm like, I love real estate investing, and what better way to become more knowledgeable in that field than to become an agent. And I went down that path, and I loved that business too. But the conversations getting around really, smart people, in this case, it was my wife. But in your case, you've had some others, that those conversations, and all it takes is one idea, and it changes like a paradigm or your perspective, or it adds another layer of like motivation to be able to take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. So many things I think about my life now is like started with a conversation, right? So it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense why I'm a therapist. Just sit down and have conversations with people all day.
Yeah, well, it's cool, and I'm sure you've learned a lot too by, I've learned a lot from our clients just by listening, and I found that, I've in the past, I haven't always been perfect in the sense of being like 100% receptive to learn from everybody that you have a conversation. Like, I even think when you're speaking to somebody that's homeless on the street, like if you're going into the conversation of what can I learn from this, like everybody can teach you something.
Mhm.
And so the times that, I've been receptive, which I'm, again, I haven't 100%, but majority of the times I'm keeping that mindset, and I'm always grabbing some sort of key nugget from them. But it is harder, right? You hit a certain level of success, and there's this, let's say, this level of, uh Jim Collins talks about this hubris of success, right? Like this idea of superiority, that you kind of, oh, I know better than you, and it's almost like it sits below the surface of every successful person, and you got to keep that in check, because that is like that's when you stop learning. It's like the beginning of the fall, and people smell it too, and it stinks, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's such an easy temptation, I think, and it's something that I catch myself doing often, actually. Where I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, did I just walk out of that
yeah.
thinking I'm the smartest person in the room? Like, which, like if I step back, I know that's not true, right? But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
this is where my wife. This is where it's good to be around people that will tell you the truth. And Joanna, there's been times in our relationship where she's like, you're a little bit short with that receptionist, and I'm
mm,
like, oh man. And then, what do you do about it? Then I'm going back. I'm like, I think I was a little short there with you, and I apologize. And owning it as fast as as fast as possible, but surrounding yourself with the right people that actually call you out on your BS too,
yeah.
I think is great. So I know for yourself as well that you've been working with your spouse from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about how that was from the beginning? Has that changed through the years? Has that been like pivotal in regards to the growth of the overall business? And then how have you managed, the whole, we're at work, we're at home, we're not working, we're working, we're eating dinner now, like conversations.
Maybe not the best sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't well, people often say this. If you watch like reels and interviews with successful people, they'd say like, yeah, who you marry is the biggest financial decision you can possibly make or business decision you can possibly make. And I think that's absolutely true. Um, my wife is an amazing person. Um, and one of our, and this is a strength and a weakness. We both, if we do a personality test, we both would rank pretty low on conscientiousness, which is
Okay.
which is like people who like really think through things before they do it, right? Make sure it's perfect before I do it. We both are uninhibited and pioneers, and so it's very exciting, right? When we get together and the world is the possibility. And so I would pitch an idea. I would just think like, here's an idea I have. What do you think? And she'd be like, I think you should do it. Oh, okay. so, and so there was no stopping. It was just like one thing after another. It's like, should we have another child? Yeah, why not? Boom.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. It's,
Yeah, why not?
yes.
But I think we both also felt the backlash of that, where life's getting more complex all of a sudden because so much growth of different things, family, business, all those kind of things. And so she's now actually more of a, um, you know, the voice of reason, where I might come up with an idea and she'll say like, "Well, let's sit on that.
Yeah. Think through
Let's
that.
take a little while," because I'm fast moving. And I wish my ideas could have happened like yesterday. And I need to know that sometimes it's the slow game that actually works and not the all the things I want to do.
Hmm. Oh, that's interesting how the relationship has evolved from both of you guys. Like, let's go to one saying, through the years, kind of learning, okay, we actually need somebody to be kind of the push and pull, which is interesting. I've been told it's kind of like a kite. The kite is up in the air and you have this person that seems to be kind of, it's like, are you holding me back? But the kite, the string is actually holding the kite up in the air. And if you let go of the string, you cut it, you think it's holding you back. You might move up for a bit, but then you crash and burn.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the best, we'll say, reference point for me when I'm thinking about kind of that push and pull and all that idea.
Yeah.
Did you think about this and this and this? Like, oh, I didn't think about that, and that back and forth. That's pretty cool that that's evolved through the years for you. And do you think that that's helped you, move faster in retrospect when you're both not going at it 100%?
Um, well, I think it's just a proper tension to have,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
Because there are some times where I feel like, hey, like, you know, I I can't just not put effort into this, right?
Yeah.
I need to work at this. And meanwhile, I mean, like, it totally makes sense. It's survival because we have 4 young children right now, right? Like, ages between, uh, 2 and 7. So
Yeah, that's
so
phenomenal. While you're running a business
right.
and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
incredible.
so definitely, I think it's just good that I am thinking about how to move forward and strategically,
Mm,
and while she's thinking about this might be too much for us as a family.
yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I love that, and I think that having that you guys were both like, okay, let's go for it. With family and business, I think for majority of people out there, they don't have that stimulus at the beginning to get going. Because once you get going, it's like a lot of times you can get enough momentum to keep it going. And at the beginning too, you make some mistakes along the way, but when you're a little younger, you can kind of make up for those pretty quick. And actually, even if you're older, you can make up as long as you keep going along the way. But that you guys started was key with this, I think, because again, majority of people just never start and they never know. And I think if you there's some of the interviews you speak with people that are on their deathbed, and they've written a number of books about this, but not one of the top ones is they wish they would have lived the life that they thought that they could have, and they didn't think about or worry about what other people would have said, or you're gonna, why are you doing that, you're gonna fail in that and all the rest of it. And they just would have taken action. So, you guys have taken action, and you guys are doing both. And now that you're working as a family unit, you have 4 kids, you have the business going there as well. What would you say would be the biggest thing to be able to do both well? So you're doing well in business. And then, I can tell just from the conversation that we had, even before the call, I'm like, wow, he's a really great father, and really cares for Kathleen, for your wife. Like I got that sense just from the conversation. What do you think has helped you, we'll say, execute on that? Because an idea is one thing, but then to actually do it into practice when you're in the real world is something completely different.
I think part of it is the design of it. Um, so even as part of the origin story, right? Like when the supervisor who made 120 grand 2 days a week, right? So when I moved here, I just finished 3 years of teaching. It was a lot of work for very little pay. It was a private school, and so I was starting to think about like, um, I want to I want to make the kind of income that if my wife was not working at all, it'd be okay. Um, and at the same time, I kind of gave myself a few non-negotiables. I said, okay, I'm not going to travel more than 20 minutes away from for a commute. Um, and I wanted to actually, when I was working in private school, one of the parents, every time I send out an email to ask for volunteers for a field trip, the same parent would email back and say, "Yeah, I'll make it." So I'm like, "Wow, that's really cool." Like, I would love to be that person.
Oh,
Like, how
cool.
did he right? So, I think the conclusion really when I wanted all of these things was like, the only way I can do this is to be a business owner. Um, and so we had to design the business as well. And I always tell people this, like, design the business so that it works for you and not the other way around, right? So, yeah, from the get go in the beginning, I set out only 3 shifts per week to see clients, and so nobody can see me outside of that time. You have to kind of train your clients almost to know that they don't have access to you outside of that time too. And so as I started filling up the schedule and I couldn't take any more clients, I was starting to push them away. That was when the turning point became, I think I need to get some associates if I'm going to keep growing here. Because income wise, I wasn't hitting what I needed, but time wise, I'm starting to max out already.
So good. So, I mean, it seems very simple and straightforward. You designed your schedule first, and then you built the business around that. So, if there wasn't a slot available, there was no slot within the time or the days that you wanted to work. So then the clients needed to work around your schedule. And tell us through, because a lot of entrepreneurs hear that and it's like, oh, that would never work for my business. My business is, people only, they expect this to be 24/7. Like, what advice would you have for them to, be able to introduce something like this in their business?
Well, I guess, I mean, I don't know exactly because it depends on the industry maybe, but I think that you kind of have to set the expectation of what kind of relationship you have with your clients. Um, and in some ways, it actually makes you more desirable, I think. Like like, every time one of my new associates join my team, they wanna open up their entire schedule, right? And I say, "Actually, why don't you limit it? Because you will find that you'll fill faster that way." And so it's just always been the case, right? Um, so I don't really, maybe there's a scarcity there, I'm not sure what the psychology or reasoning behind it is, but it seems to actually work better for your business when you are actually more restrictive on your time than if you are just open-ended.
Yeah, so good, and I love how you explain that. You got to set the expectation on how you work. This is really interesting as we have the two businesses. We have the real estate brokerage, with you see the signs everywhere, and then we have the real estate investment firm where we're buying these apartment buildings down south and working with Canadian investors and American investors, but primarily Canadian. But for the real estate business, at one point, I'd say probably about like 6, 7 years ago, I was selling personally 150 homes while leading the team doing 1,000 sales. And I was like, oh, they have to be able to work, certain clients need to be able to work with me. And I realized that doing the 1,000 sales, that like my team members were getting rave reviews as well. And what I realized when well, first we were hitting a ceiling, and the company really needed me to transition into a CEO and to lead the company. There were some gaps there starting to happen, and I needed to make that transition. But that was a tough thing for me to be able to do that. But what I realized once I started transitioning out was it people are not it wasn't just about me, it was about the standards and the delivery and how I was servicing clients. And so what really gave me great peace of mind was that the team members that I was training, I built the training system. And I know that you do coaching as well. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But when I train them that through all the steps, like, this is how we handle this is how we handle that, this is how, and then I had them role play it back to me so that I could see for myself that they were going to deliver it the same way that I did, with that high standard. Then I had a whole lot more peace of mind knowing when I was transitioning somebody, where I wasn't just like throwing like a new agent to the out in the marketplace where they're going to not deliver the standard. And so where I've seen the biggest gap in real estate, but this goes across the board in the industries that I've seen, is where you hire somebody and you throw them in with a client with no sort of formal step-by-step training on how your process is, and then they get a bad review and you're like, see, that doesn't work, I need to do it. So for me, it started with getting clear, how is it that I do everything, writing everything down step by step, even scripting was something that we went to that level. And then to be able to train it, then role play it, then they need to show it to you. And kind of the Zorro circle, right? You do kind of a small area and then give them some authority and autonomy, and then kind of go out wider. And then eventually you're just training the system then and the delivery. The key is to find the right people. And for us, it's like a genuine love of people, willingness to work hard, and a willingness to learn. Those big three, if they have them, we can train the rest that we found.
Yeah.
Has that been some your experience as well, like with the training, so that they can get that same level with yourself?
Yeah, it's a I don't think I haven't put it to that level, I don't think. But it's actually a little bit different spin on it, actually, because in the therapy world, the number one predictor of success in therapy is your alliance. They call it the therapeutic alliance. So whether you like or trust your therapist.
Mm.
Um, and so what we do is we're looking at. I mean, part of it is really gut check, right? When we're interviewing people, it has to be like this person immediately gives me two things: warmth and confidence. So that's kind of how we're screening for. Like I do a quick personality assessment with them. We found out that there is a particular profile that fits us the best as a team. Because every time I went against my gut and went for someone who wasn't fitting that particular profile, it didn't, it just didn't jive as well, or didn't perform as well even. So we start to really get an idea of what that is. Um, and so a huge part is if we see these two qualities, we're not too worried about their. I mean, we know their competence is there because we're only hiring people who already have all the right training for sure. And of course, I'm asking a few questions about that, and we can always develop those. But it is those two kind of characteristics that we're looking for, because I think it fits our brand. After that, it's more about highlighting their personalities, because we want people to go on our website, see a video or maybe a podcast of that person, get a sense of like, hey, is this someone I would actually feel comfortable sitting in a room with, and then they can book with them, right?
So good. It seems so simple, yet it's so powerful. There's this story. I don't know if you follow Darren Hardy, but he's kind of the modern day Napoleon Hill. He used to be the editor of Success magazine, and he shared the story of a when he went to see the vice president of the Marriott. He had checked in the night before at the hotel, and he walked in, and the doorman, he was super friendly, and then he went to the front desk. The lady greeted him. She was super friendly. He went up, ordered room service. They were super friendly. The next day, he sees the vice president. He's like, how on earth do you train everybody to be so friendly? I want to know for my business. And the vice president's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, everybody I've met so far is super friendly. I want to know, how do you train them? And then vice president, he kind of looks down, looks back up, and he's like, hey, we don't train people to be friendly. We hire friendly people.
Yeah.
We hire friendly people. And Darren's like, oh man, he's like this, his mind exploded, because he's like, oh my goodness, like it seems, yeah, that makes sense. Like you don't train people to have warmth and confidence. You have it. And then you basically, you plug in you had said it fits your brand, or you like your values really well. I mean, that's the kind of the definition of insanity. You kind of, you train somebody, they don't get it, and then it just doesn't work. But if you get it from the start, then you're there pretty much, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love that story. This is the guy who wrote Compound Effect.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, got
And
it.
the entrepreneur roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, really sharp individual, and it just goes to show you, like, this is something that, and it sounds very similar. Genuine love of people, willingness to work hard, and willingness to learn. Those are the big three for us on the real estate side. You either have a genuine love of people where you care, and I agree with you. There should be when you first meet them, it you should have a genuine like of them pretty quick. I think, because if they're out there and right from the beginning in the interview, they have kind of this, face that, they seem like they're pissed off all the time. That's likely gonna, fall into their status quo, on the day to day. So you want somebody that people genuinely like fairly quick as well, because they make a decision if they like you within the first 7 seconds. That's like a real thing. That's human nature, right?
Yeah, I had a interview with someone who wanted to join us, and all the resume was great, right? Like all the right
Yeah,
qualifications were there and experience, but then the person was not even giving me like proper eye contact. I
yeah,
was like, it's
yeah,
like 5 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, I know where this is going.
yeah.
So we just closed it off pretty early. But
No, it's so good,
yeah,
like, the eye contact and the conversation. It's something that I've been, like, working hardcore. I think my boys they're getting it now for sure. It took a little bit, but, when you meet somebody, it's like a good handshake. None of this kinda, soft handshake. It's like a good you, like, go right in there, give a good firm shake. You look at them in the eye, and, you look at them, it shows a sign of respect by doing that. But there's a lot of people out there that just they're kind of looking off to the side, or they sometimes, when you're going for a handshake and you get kind of like a half handshake. I figured out the solution for all the listeners out there. What I do to kind of like break it, to make sure, because you know what, you don't want to be that guy where you gave that half shake and they think it's maybe you, because sometimes it could be just a miss, right, in the handshake. I'll say to them, it's like, "Hey, can we do that again? Can we do that?" And then I'll go right in for that handshake there. And then there's no mistake. Like, that's a solid handshake. And I do it kind of in a humorous way where I'm not, putting anything on them. It's more kind of putting it on myself. But can we do that again? And generally that actually kind of turns the relationship. There's a little bit of humor there, and you feel good after a good handshake, right? But eye contact's also important.
yeah,
Yeah.
how to influence, what is it? Make friends and influence people.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still stands true.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
smile at people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I mean, and speaking of that book, I would say, like, that's probably, the top two business books. If you want to get into business, like, that is the book. Yeah, Dale Carnegie. And it's one of those books that you can keep reading. He says that at the beginning, right? This is not a book to read once. If you read it, he talks about reading it over and over and over. And it's interesting. I know, Joel, my younger brother, Joel and Thomas. I've actually, for like the last 6 years, we've met like every Friday morning, pretty much. There's the odd exception, and a lot of those meetings, we're actually going over those principles, and
Mm,
we've gone in and we've internalized them. There's the odd miss kind of here and there, but we keep that sharp in us because it's easy to forget, right? And some of those principles you shared are them. So if you're listening, definitely that book. You need to do How to Win Friends and Influence People summary. And I think there's one on HubSpot there. It's got like a really nice summary of all the different principles, and you can go find them real quick. So that'll be kind of your 2 minute read of that book. If you internalize those principles, it'll really help you in business. Okay, so transition now a little bit. Are you at a point right now where you have like a full book? Because the question is more based around, how do you generate leads or generate clients? Because this is in every single business, it comes down to lead generation, right? You want to make sure that you're getting people in the door. Even if you do have a full book, what did you do at the beginning to be able to generate more and more people to actually reach out to you so that you could actually get clients?
um, well, yeah, again, this is kind of all, like, by accident, right? So we just, um at the beginning, I I was just doing what everyone tells you to do, right? Social media, all the things, um, and then at this office, I was renting per head. I was making very little money in the first year I was working here. And so the landlord was asking me, "Hey, people are trying to ask you about the space. Do you want to rent full time with us?" And that was kind of scary to me because I was like, "Oh, cow, that's like we're not making enough money to pay bills right now."
Yeah.
Like, um, but speaking of my wife, right? Like I was talking to her about it, and she said, "I think you just need to do it." Okay, all
It's
right,
so what a blessing, man, to have
yeah.
that kind of encouragement,
Yeah.
right?
So I said, okay, if I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna go all the way in, right? Let's rent, let's get the lease signed, and then I'm gonna go get my website done properly. Because right now, at that point, it was just my self-made website on Wix,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we hired a guy locally to professionally make our website, and like within a few days even. Like it was like we went from not being on Google at all to being on I think page 2 or page 1. And then and so we were lucky again. Like this is back when nobody really knew much about marketing, and we were just kind of entering this field in Barrie in particular where there was very little kind of competition at that point. So you go on listings, you go on um, Google and make your rankings go up. And then we had Google Ads as well. We added that in, and honestly, that's really where it started flowing in. Now,
Mhm.
in my industry, it makes sense because people know what a therapist is. They are looking for one, and when they find you, you have a high chance of them coming to you as long as you have some professional look to your website and likability. Um, and then after that, it really becomes word of mouth, right? So I did go around to talk with family doctors, for example, and just give them a handshake and ask if I can do a lunch with them as a group and get them to ask questions. So that drew some lead generation as well. Um, I'm at the point right now where I probably need to go back to basics, right? Because we've been just riding off of our strong SEO and it's working, but I probably need to go back to shaking those hands and getting around and talking with people. Yeah.
That's really good. And so this is where, regardless wherever you're at in the business right now, I mean, having a website, I think is like 101. I think that's like the first thing that people will do is they hear about any business, they're going to go and Google them. I do it all the time with entrepreneurs. I'm going to interview I want to check out their website. And so having like a solid website that you can actually say, yeah, that represents us, I think is if you don't have that, that's like getting that first and foremost. But actually your ranking on Google is quite important as well. This is something that across all of our offices, we've been very big, especially with like Google reviews, and our ranking on that is really important. And so not only is it important to like ask for reviews from happy clients and to keep that top of mind, but also to deal with sometimes you don't get a rate, or sometimes there's a complaint that's not even your own client, your own client, right? But the key is the attention on your overall profile online is very, very, very important. And not a lot of entrepreneurs put any time into it that I've identified. They have like a really low score, or there's something that they could fix very easily. Maybe there was a complaint and they could just, have a phone call and, basically listen and, fix what the potential problem, which is could be small, but that would just go such a long way. But the attention to the page, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I would say to any like starting business, like get your website up first and your what do you call it, SEM, like paid advertising on Google because it's relatively affordable. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you're paying thousands to be on a radio show or a billboard, right? And the return is very immediate, and you
Yeah.
can test it too. So you test your messaging, you can test, what people are clicking through and whether it converts, right? So that's why it's kind of non-negotiable to start off.
Yeah, no, 100%. The other thing that I really like, I mean, word of mouth, you do a great job. People are going to talk, right? I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
like pretty straightforward. But what you did with the family doctors, I think is something that uh, in different industries, there's lots of opportunity there to find these influencers um, that can actually send you business. And so this is where, like the doctors, for example, that's great because they have a slew of potential clients that are asking them for something, but they don't do that. They don't do what their clients are asking. And if they have a really good, reliable source that's going to baby them, now they can be the hero by making that introduction to, say, you in this case, right? And so a lot of times these influencers, they're so busy that they don't think to actually go and build relationships with all these different people that their clients are asking about. And so if you could be proactive and add value to them, this is like by giving first, like buying a coffee as an example, or lunch. It's like, oh, geez, that was nice. They're going to be thinking about you, and they're going to want to send business to you. And if you do a great job, this is the key, especially that first one or two, like make sure you kill it, because now that client's going to go back to that, say, doctor in this case, right? And they're going to say, hey, like, Dr. Lindsay, wow, like he was awesome. Thank you so much. Now they look like a rock star, right?
Yep.
So I
Yep.
love how you did that. I mean, that to me is that's a great lesson. No matter what business you're in, generally there's influencers that can send you business.
Mhm. Yeah. You can look it up on ChatGPT, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is my industry. What kind of people are the best people to reach out to as referral sources, right? And then start making lists, right? Start finding out who who do you know, or what connections can bring you or invite you to those people. Um, and I think there's a book called Getting Booked or something like that. Oh man, forgot the name of the guy now. Long time ago, I read it, found it in the library.
Oh, great. So getting
but he,
booked. Okay.
but he talks about having like a list of top 20, right? Your top 20 referrals, and just like regularly doing small emails to them just to be like, hey, thought about you. Here's something that, here's a book I've been thinking of, and this is, you might be interested, or like going out for coffee, so like then that systemizes it a little bit, so that you have your, it's not just this random, I mean, that happens too, right? Like you just happen to run into the right person at the right time. But if you systemize it, then you can regularly be out there and having conversations with the people who would most likely be referral sources.
That's great. And being intentional on this, I think is phenomenal, because if you get one, so say like your 20 potential, we'll say like your dream clients, right? If I could get them, they know like 500 people, they're a major influencer. If I'm their go-to in this one, now you get access to the 500 that they know. So like if you start with the list of 20, I love that. Write them down and then start adding value. Give value, give value, give value, reach out, connect, give value. And by doing that, all of a sudden you become their resource. Even if they have somebody else that they're working with, eventually what will happen is maybe there'll be a disagreement or they'll be upset with them, and they'll give you a shot. If you go ahead and just kill it, well, now you're their go-to, and you have access to their entire network. So I love that idea about writing down your top 20 and then being proactive, like being intentional about bringing them over as a client. Makes a lot of sense.
As a client, or as someone who just, raves about you. It doesn't have to be a client, right? So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's totally exactly. Okay, so that makes sense for the lead gen. There were some really great nuggets there. Okay, now that you've brought a client on, are there any things that you do from like a service kind of like wow or above and beyond that clients are like, "Oh, that was so good that you did this thing." Are there any like I think of Disney with this, like these kind
Yeah.
of wow moments where
Uh-huh.
they're unexpected, the delivering the unexpected, but it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness, this is amazing." Anything like that that you've done through the years that have yield you some results?
You know what? I was actually just thinking about that this morning, and I'm like, this is something I need to get better at. So, because I don't know that I have a real system for that. I mean, I'm lucky enough that my business, my industry itself, does rely to a degree on my personality, right? So like people do get to, when it comes to say therapy clients, right? They come to me, they learn to trust me, they sit with me an hour a week for a pretty long time sometimes. So so we build a relationship, right? And that in itself is really what people really value, I think,
Right.
ultimately. So no, I don't really have like, I'm not keeping people's birthdays and sending them little cards. Like maybe I could, but yeah, it's also it might be industry specific too, because like I think we don't want to be crossing too many boundaries
Yeah.
in terms of professional to personal
Yeah.
relationship in my industry. But in other industries, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Whatever you're doing right now is excellent. I mean, you got your book there as well from like you're booked in regards to the amount of clients that you're servicing, and it's an interesting thing when you start looking at like these little wows. Or there's this book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and this restaurateur, especially on the service side of things, it's like he was ranked like the number one restaurant in the world or whatnot. And they talked about kind of the painstaking care to like try to personalize things. Like in your business, there's like the personal relationship where I keep all my notes, I know exactly everything. So there's like it's so anchored in that you get me, you understand me. When we look at like businesses, what we look at is really okay. What is the client? It will say the cycle of the client of coming on board right from looking online. So what is that experience to, okay, I'm going to reach out and have that phone call. So there's that live pickup. And then there's like a live transfer to our booking team that has all of our agents calendars online where it's got to be quick. And then the agent, they get booked in, they go and see them. And we map that all the way to, the agent goes and sees them, they sign the listing, and then there's our stager, photographer, video, and it's like this whole. And we mapped it all out,
Yeah.
and we did this for both businesses. And what's interesting is that there's certain parts during the journey of the client experience where there's like highs of like, oh, I'm really excited, to like I'm really like scared or fearful. And it's interesting when you start mapping it out, you can start to see that there might be an opportunity here to go the extra mile, or down here to actually help mitigate that valley of like fear that people can go into, and looking for these little wow deliveries. One of the things that we realize is like to like have it so it's systemized, so it's not like it's a one off. If you can systemize these little wows, like for example, when we go on the brokerage side where there's a listing appointment, we actually bring a little gift bag with like branded mugs that are unexpected, right? And then when the stagers go in and we deliver, there's like a little candle they bring in. And then when the feature books are delivered, there's like little chocolate, little surprise in there. And so you try and like do these. But it's interesting, this is not like an overnight thing. You add one little thing at a time, and then over time you have all these things that you have real feedback that this is actually impacting, and it means something. Because it's easy to get caught up with, you're spending all your time but you're not delivering true value of to the client. So make sure you get your core delivery down, but then all this stuff is like it's little extra kind of frills that kind of takes it over the top, right?
Right. Like roll the red carpet out, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. And a lot of businesses, they don't need to do it because you got such a client list because you're so good at doing the craft of itself. And I think that the expertise, and that's where you're definitely at, is like you're so good at doing the job that there's like mastery in that. And that's a red carpet thing too, right? I think that's at the heart of great customer services. You're like the black belt of that. And I mean, you nailed down the key traits that people need in order to be the black belt in that specific role, which many I'm sure aren't. It's more of, do you have the credentials? Okay, good. Come on in, like, let's get the numbers going, right?
Yeah. We So when we write out our bios, that's kind of part of it too, right? Like our biographies for the website is like we don't want this to come across as, I guess, canned or clinical. Like we actually want we want a little bit of your story and a little bit of your personality to show up here. Um, and we're writing this for the person that's coming in, not for yourself, right? So
Yeah,
that's
so good.
yeah, and that's actually something we've from day one. People would come in and say, "Yeah, the reason I've looked through dozens of profiles, and yours really shone out for me. That's why I came here."
Well, how you said that, there's so much wisdom that you write it from their perspective, and I think that's a mastery business concept. It's simple, yet it's very hard to do on a day to day basis. It's like whenever we're doing anything, Jeff Bezos, what he does in his meetings with his senior leadership team, he has a seat for the client. So their core client actually, he has this like empty seat there, and it's like, well, what would they think about it, right? When they're making decisions. So I love that when you're doing your bio, think of it from whoever's reading it. That they're it's written for them, not for you to get, to kind of scratch your itch. It's for them. That makes a lot of sense. I think you can take that right through all of your business, right? Anything that does it add value to them or not, right? Okay, so let's transition the conversation a little bit here. So I know real estate is something that you invest into. You've done uh, that is something that you've invested in through the years. So not only on the entrepreneur, the business side, but then real estate. What we'll say advice would you have for the listeners out there when it comes down to investing their money on we'll say a day to day basis?
Well, I started off. Now I was thinking about this. The first book I've ever read on finances. I found it on my sister's drawer, and it was The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. So very classic book. It was the first time I read it and thought, oh, this is easy. Like it's really just math, and I just need to start, right? And this is before I was even 18, so I read that and thought, this is exciting. So 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 right away, I think that there's so many strategies out there, and it's good, obviously, to optimize and to find. But usually, really, if you just stick with it and you just start, then that's how you start building, right? Um, so for myself, because I am not the kind of guy that wants to analyze everything. It's just with my personality, it's not like that. So it was like stick with the simplest possible path and just continue to go with it, right? So I started off with index funds investing, and and then I was building up some equity in my home, and this is one of those conversation moments. I was talking with some friends who do invest in properties, and they're like, "What are you doing? Like you're sitting on a gold mine. You're living in a gold mine and you're not using it." And so that got me reading books about real estate investing. And I called up a broker and asked him like, "Hey, I'm just curious, like based on you know this is my situation. Is it possible? Like, can I do it? Like, can I get into a duplex in Barrie and in every 5 years do it again, right?" And again, it's just serendipitous here. I'm sitting with this guy, and he was like, "Well, I could do that for you, but why don't you instead go into a sixplex?" And I was like, "Whoa, like this is not even something that was in my world."
Yeah.
Right? And just like again, like how could I have done this if my wife held me back, right? She- She's like, "You're like that sounds reasonable after we talked with this guy long enough, right? Let's do it." So we found a place. I think we closed the first property 2 days before Christmas in 2019, I want to say. And we're like, "This is our Christmas miracle." We got this place. Um, and for sure, I think my advice would be to well, I would probably tell this to myself. Again, it's just like, don't see these as get rich quick schemes, right? But they're really just investments. You got to be patient with them.
Yeah.
um, and make sure you're still working on your business. Make sure that that primary business is solid and is able to finance your investments.
It's genius. It really is, and it goes back to the Automatic Millionaire book. Like, just keep it simple, right? And if you keep doing that over time, the renters are going to pay off the mortgage, and you're going to do well. And over time, real estate's gone up 5% a year. But the cool thing is, if you put 20% down, you're leveraging something that's 5 times greater. And if you have all that equity sitting in your house, you have access to capital to be able to get more real estate working for you. And this is something that we've done many, many, many times through the years for clients that they were sitting on, a few $100,000 in their house in equity at least, but they pulled that out. They bought one extra property. And now they're like millionaires because of that, one extra move. But if you do it and then you do it again, it sure does compound over time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where it was. Like, it was so exciting the first time, and like the value raised by like almost double in 2 years because it was COVID was coming in.
Yeah,
So we're like, well, let's do it
let's
again,
do it
right? And
again.
we did, and I felt like, oh, now it's kicking our butt a little bit, but um, that's why I'm saying like it's good, uh, but don't see it as the way to make. Well, I mean, it's a way to, for me, it's my retirement plan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But in my head, I was just like, man, just do this every 2 years and I'll be done soon. And maybe for some people, and maybe it's about having the right, um, finding the right assets is going to be a huge part of it.
Th-
Um,
So good.
mhm.
That's really great counsel. Um, Now, last question before we get into the rapid fire. You created this E5 leadership framework, so you help other leaders grow and develop. Can you share and shed a little bit of light on what that's all about?
Yeah, I mean, I my PhD was in organizational psychology. I think the things that I have the most interest in is leadership and in motivation, work motivation. Books that have inspired me in this framework would be things like The E Myth or Attraction or Run Like Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. So a lot of those do talk about systems, which is something that's developing for me. It's not really my strongest suit, to be honest. But what I do like to do is build in the systems for the actual leadership itself. So, I mean, when you're talking about sellable assets, right? You want to build a business that you can completely not be a part of and trust, and that your leadership team not only does well, but they take it beyond you. And so that's really more about the psychological ownership of the entire leadership team. That's what the book. Well, I'm writing a book about it right now. Is going to be about. And so I have this E5 framework, 5 foundations that are necessary for a self-sustaining team, and each one of those, I have an assessment for that as well, so that you can
Smart,
measure how well you're doing on any of these foundations, and then you can take the lowest score one and start working on it right away
smart.
and build yourself up until you're scoring well in all 5. So the 5 foundations, and I do it in this order, starting off with execution. So it's like, how do we have the structures and accountability to make sure that we're doing things in the right direction? Then we have engagement. So we got 2 sides of the coin. You can't have execution without engagement, and you can't have engagement without execution. And some cultures really swing one way or the other, where they're very cozy and friendly with each other, but they're not actually getting things done, or they're just so stressed out because they're getting things done at such a breakneck speed, right? So you need to have both. The third foundation is Envision, which is putting you into the same, actually collaboratively. This process I use called appreciative inquiry to get everyone to collaboratively create the next, your strategic planning, your vision, your mission, your values, and being on the same page and understanding it and having the same language and using it properly. The fourth foundation is explore, which is how do you bake into the culture of your company, um, innovation, innovative thinking, improvement, and also how do you make sure that you guys have very solid rhythms and predictability in place so that your company does not burn out. Then you have the fifth one, which is empower, and that's the one where you're starting to really you want to make sure you're systemizing everything and that you're giving people ownership of those roles and those systemizations and protocols, and so that they know every person should be able to train another person how to do their job, basically. Yeah, so those are my five foundations, and what the self-sustaining team index, which is the assessment we use, is all about.
It's smart, so smart. I love how you've taken it and you've created your own five foundation framework here: execution, engagement, envision, explore, empower. And it seems to me like you've got all the check boxes there as well. This is great. So you're writing a book on this. So I'm looking forward to. I'll buy the first copy. How's that? You got to send it to me though. Okay, is that
Amazing.
a
Yeah.
deal? You got your first one pre-sold.
Nice.
Very cool. Good for you. And I think that that will give the readers a really good context of who you are as a leader as well. And I think that that in any business, writing your own book is something that I think is a very good authority play as well. So looking forward to reading that. All right. We can keep talking here on business. You can see you're both students of the game here, but I got three last questions for rapid fire, and then we're going to wrap it up. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You've given a couple really good books here. It's one of my standard questions. Which book is your favorite out of all the books that you've read that's helped you the most in your career?
Um, I think one of the earliest book on leadership and business that stuck with me and has informed a lot of what I still do or think about now is The Good to Great by Jim
Good
Collins.
to great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Three words that best describe you, of maybe people that know you best, that they would best describe you as, maybe three different character traits.
Yeah, the first one is wise. The second one is encouraging, and then the third one is playful.
All right, perfect. And final question here for you is, what's your final advice for, the entrepreneurs that are listening out there that would, help them take their business to the next level or to take that next step towards entrepreneurship?
Maybe I'll just circle back to the first things we were talking about, and
Yeah.
that's read some books and talk to some people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
It's
Just
interesting.
don't just you know. I mean, a lot of it is going to be winging it and trying it out, but a lot, you gotta just go and do it, obviously, but do it with some conversations first that of people who've done it already.
Yeah, I think all lead generation comes down to having conversations with people. So if you just have more, you'll do well in any business. In my belief, it's that simple. You have more conversations with people. So I think that's very wise final advice for the listeners. So this is a great conversation here. For the listeners out there, they're like, yeah, you know what? I really like Dr. Lindsay. I want to reach out and maybe schedule a one-on-one or maybe with one of your team members. What's the best way they can reach out and find a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, so it's resetbarrie.ca. Um, that's our therapy practice. So for people who are looking for some therapeutic help there, then we have that team. If they're looking for business help, then you can go to happyhires.ca.
Amazing. Dr. Lindsay, this is a real pleasure to have this conversation. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Right on. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. If you like the show, please share and subscribe to the channel where we are building a community of up and coming entrepreneurs. And if you are interested in investing into real estate and you can't find any great deals out there, go to fulloutinvesting.com. We have our 10-step full out investing process on how we're buying these 100-unit apartment buildings down south of the border. And just remember, one of the best ways to build wealth is to grow your business and to invest into real estate. I love you guys.